6:30. Welcome to the Paradise Center for the Arts virtual artist talk. It is March 10th. We are here with Mary Welke, Kate Langlais, Mike Stoecklein. Summer Hazelton was not able to be with us, but I will just say a few words about her work. And then we have a couple slides about the area student show. We have 4 schools participating in that. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Paradise Center for the Arts, we're located in downtown Faribault. We have 4 on-site galleries. We have a 300-seat auditorium, classrooms, and all kinds of wonderful things here at the Paradise. If you're interested in visiting our website, is paradisecenterforthearts.org. And these exhibits will be up through March, I believe March 20. No, I'm sorry, I'm losing it. It's March. Sorry, I'm failing right away. They'll be up through March 19th. So if you're interested in visiting us in downtown Faribault, we are open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, noon to 5 p.m., Saturday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. If those times don't work for you, please give us a call or an email, and we will set up a time to get you in here when we're closed. And I know not everybody is comfortable being around other people, even though things are calming down a little bit, but please give us a call, 507-332-7372. Make an appointment and we'll get you in to see the work. Again, it's up through March 19th. And the slide we're looking at right now is Mary Welke. And Mary and I met when she was got her grant in 2020 and was wanted to teach a class in person. And we made that happen. And then Mary and I got to meet each other again. We were both at the Northfield Arts Guild and had artwork there at the same time. And I did my first virtual artist talk with Mary. So this is exciting to do it again. And Mary, can you tell us about your show?
Sure. Hello, everybody. This exhibit I'm having right now at the Paradise Center for the Arts is my Field and Farmland project. And this is about, I guess the short answer is soil health. It's about prairie renewal and farmland renewal. And this is a project that I received a grant from the Minnesota State Arts Board to work on this project. And I've continued with it since my grant ended. And this first image here on the screen is the seasons. I chose to do 3 because I like the number 3 better than 4, but the one on the left is winter fallow. And that's, I like, this one feels like a blanket, like resting in the winter. And that's what our land is doing, and most of us as well, the time of introspection. The one in the middle is spring and summer, and that's the prairie, renewal, the rebirth. And this one is also showing talks about the roots and the root structures and how that protects the soil and enhances the soil out in the prairies. And the one on the right is the fall in the fall. And this one you can't tell from the image, but it has some iridescent in it. So it really shimmers when the light hits it, when the sunlight changes or the angle of the light is, the floodlights change, and it really takes on a 3-dimensional quality of the grains in the fields. And some people say it's almost like looking through a fence and looking off through the distance, through the fields and the distant horizon. And this one is called Roots. And these are examples of pieces of the corn stalks that I picked out of the fields as I walk through the farm fields. And I brought all these things back to my studio, and a collection of organic material. And I looked at these and they had such a regal quality to them. And I've never taken a close look at these corn stalks sticking up. You drive across the countryside, in your car, and you see these things sticking out of the fields. And, they're stubs, like stubs left over, remnants from the corn, but that's about as far as it goes. And when I went and examined them closer, and you can't really tell from this image, but when you see them in person, you can tell that they almost look like they've been embossed with a tool. There's patterns on them and striations. They're quite elegant, and to me they have a regal quality. And so I thought, how many of us actually take a look at these things, get close enough to take a look and see their intrinsic beauty? And I also was pleasantly surprised to see the roots, how the shadows from the pieces, when it created the shadows on the walls. And that was that's an additional surprise for me. And it just delights me to see that. And I hope it delights you too when you see it in person. This one, the prairie burn movement, was inspired by watching actual prairie burns and they're used to renew the soil and all the plants in the prairie. And one thing I noticed as I watched a number of these prairie burns is that the movement of the fire and the energy of the fire is so intense. And it left this image with me. And somebody asked me if the orange is because of hunters, like hunters going through the fields, which is interesting, but it's not. It has to do with the heat and the glow of that fire. And believe me, if you've never been to one, it's incredible how the movement and the heat that you feel. So it's an emotional response. And then this one is called Checking. And this one was just another one that I was inspired by walking along fields, being in the car, and driving through the countryside. And you see these stubs, these little stubs sticking out of the soil in the farmers' fields. And I just found it fascinating that they make such a contemporary abstract pattern, and it's all organic. And so I created this piece using burlap. And as I did this, I shared it. And a friend of mine who was raised on a farm in Iowa sent me an old photograph of, I guess the farmers, when they had horses and plows, they used this method called checking, and they had a wire. In the wire, they would string along, I think they would string it along the field, and then it was somehow help them to know where to drop the seeds. So they would just drop the seeds in this grid, this pattern. And I guess to this day, you can go onto farmers' fields, and those wires they still have them laying around in their farms, and they use them now for fences, fences, and for other things like they do a lot of their other tools. But I learned about that afterwards, and to me, I just like the way these things feel like they're growing up off of the canvas. This one is called No-Till, and this is just a response to the idea of the no-till farming, and where the farmers leave the corn stalks and other vegetation. They don't clear out the fields completely, and they leave these things on the ground both for animals and to help absorb water. And some of this vegetation, like this in the center part, these are actual stalks from corn that I embedded in there. And they leave these things on the ground to nourish the soil and protect it and keep the moisture in it. And I love that idea. It helps it so it doesn't erode as well.
I think this is our last slide, Mary. Anything else you want to say about the show?
I hope, you know, I just have to tell you that when I saw this work put up in the gallery over at Paradise Center for the Arts, I was shocked. I can't tell you how happy I feel about being able to put the work out and line it up so that you can look at each individual piece and have space to view it. I think I'm very pleased with the way the show looks. I think it's strong, and my strongest wish is that everyone would come and see it in person.
Well, thank you, Mary. And I agree with Mary. You should come and see it in person. It is totally different. Some of these images were provided by Mary. Some of them I took, like the burning photo, the orange photo, doesn't do it justice. It is a brighter orange than it came across in the slideshow. And it is more impressive in person. So please come and see it in person. I think that was it. Or did I?
I think it was, did you have the?
Is the paper one in here?
Yeah, I think.
Oh, there it is. Oh, okay. One more. Sorry about
Okay.
that.
You want one more this was my first time learning how to make paper, and a friend helped me make the paper, and I had these samples and I took them home and they were all wet. And when I had them, and she said, just lay them around in your studio and then they'll let them dry. And when I brought them home, I had them all, each one on a piece of felt, and they were bright green, and they had little prairie flowers in them and stems and seeds. So they were multicolored and textured. They were stunning. And I put them all in there, and then I left them. And when I came back, they started turning into what you're seeing here. And then I flipped them over, and then I contacted her and I said, they're getting like all brown and crispy and everything. And she said, oh, don't worry about that. If you want them to be flat, the way they were, all you have to do is spray them with some water and they'll come back to life. You know, they'll look exactly like they were. And so my original intention was to put these pieces into use them as collage in those smaller works we just looked at. But then when I came back to my studio again and I saw how they had curled and gotten so textural, and they had turned into like something you would see on the ground, I said, no, they each have their intrinsic beauty, and I need to honor that beauty. And what it is, it's talking about renewal. It's talking about the cycle of nature and the cycle of life and death, because these will come back to life. They have the seeds in there. They are capable of rebirth. And to me, that is magical. It's incredible. And I think they're just beautiful pieces of nature.
Well, thank you, Mary. And again, please come and see the shows in person. Make an appointment if you can't make it during open hours. Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So next we have Kate. Kate also teaches here at the Paradise Center for the Arts. We do have some virtual classes coming up this spring and summer. And I have taken a few of the classes. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. And Kate has quite the variety in her show. She's got some landscapes, some portraits, and some new work. Kate, are you there?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It is a variety of projects that I've been working on. I do portraits and landscapes, especially portraits, and I decided to try something new recently too. So it's a lot. There's a variety for sure. So this one is just one of my landscapes. Just kind of I think this one was maybe even made up during a class. Sometimes I do a landscape painting class and I'll just paint right on a canvas. So So I started this one during a class and then finished it afterwards. And yeah, I love painting clouds. You know, they're, and I show my students too how to get them to look, you know, where to put the gray and the white and to make them look kind of three-dimensional. And there's so many different types of ways to paint different types of clouds. So yeah, so this is an example of that. Yeah, and this is one from my focus project. So it's I have really bad eyesight, like -8, I think. So if anybody's familiar with going to the eye doctor and you look at the standard eye chart from a standard distance away, and they ask you to read the eye chart without your glasses, you might say, "What eye chart?" Because you can't see the eye chart at all, that there is even one on the wall. So so I decided to take advantage of that. Obviously, there's a lot of bad things about having to wear glasses to be able to see, but there's actually a lot of great things too. So in this one, this is kind of a landscape of, like, you know, what I see without my glasses. And the way I did these is actually putting my glasses down like this. So I'm looking without my glasses, and then I'm looking kind of down at my canvas to be able to actually see my canvas and what I'm doing, and trying to portray what I'm seeing without my glasses to the viewer. So this is sort of a blurry landscape on a lake, and I have a bunch of other ones in this project too. So come out and see this show in person. One of the cool things you can see in the show is like the way I see lights. It's not just blurry. So yeah, come check out the show in person. This is one of my portrait pieces. I like working in charcoal, so I did one of Abe Lincoln. Got some other like famous artists or famous people that I drew, and I also do portrait commissions. So just kind of one of many examples. I also have some prints for sale of some different people that I've drawn. Yeah, and this is another another painting from the Focus project. So this is what it kind of looks like looking through a window, and you might notice that there's some kind of blue and yellow lines kind of outlining things, and you might wonder what that is. And that's what I see when, you know, when I'm looking without my glasses. I kind of see like almost this little halo of a line, you know, against certain objects depending on how the light is hitting it. And I see like this, this kind of cyan blue, and then this like bright yellow too, depending on the angle. So that was what I was trying to portray in this one. Yeah, and here's another example of a landscape work. The Lake Wobegon is actually done near the Lake Wobegon bike trail. So it's not actually Lake Wobegon, because I don't think there is a lake called Lake Wobegon, but there is a bike trail. So that's where this was painted.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Anything else you want to say, Kate? I know Kate just found out she got a Southeastern Minnesota Arts Council grant. Can you tell us a little bit about that project?
Yeah, I'm really excited to be able to continue a portrait project that I've been working on, featuring immigrants and children of immigrants too. So first and second generation immigrants in Minnesota, especially local to Faribault. So actually, if you know anybody or that is interested in being drawn and wants to share their story, this is a great project to, I'll draw a portrait, you know, like in the charcoal, or sometimes chalk pastels too, depending on what media I want to work in, and we'll have the stories written in the person's own words, right alongside the portrait. The first time that I did that project, I did a little show at the Paradise. This time it will be at the community center in town. So hoping to get a bigger show going too, and interview more people and draw more people. So that's gonna be a fun one. I think it's scheduled for the summer of 2023, that show. So.
Well, wonderful. Thank you, Kate. And we do have the information about Kate's classes on our website, paradisecenterforthearts.org. I think we have a life drawing class coming up, and one for the younger kids. I think, was it 1st through 6th for painting science. And then I know this summer she'll be teaching virtually painting landscapes and painting Minnesota. And painting Minnesota was very popular. What we painting the like the state trees, state other things, and maybe from some artists from Minnesota.
Yeah, we do a variety of topics each time. So yeah, those are always fun classes. Hopefully see some of you there virtually, and yeah, and then also yeah, the painting science one is really fun too. Sometimes people are like, oh, what is that? And tell you one example is we paint like the planets or something, and actually I have them all hanging up along my living room, like spaced apart, you know, in proportion to each other where they should be. So that's one example of something we paint there. That's next month, right?
Yes. Yep. April.
So encourage people to sign up for some of those classes. And the paint kits are already put together too, and you can pick them up at the Paradise. So it's really easy to get the supplies because they're already put together for you.
Well, thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Julie.
And next we have Mike, and Mike has 3D and 2D work. He has a bunch of wood carvings you can see here in this photo, and then he has a variety of paintings also. Mike, can you tell us about your work?
Yeah, I was doing some calculating. I guess I'm kind of going through a bit of a renaissance of trying to do as much art as I can. I've always done some type of art my whole life, and I've always had this tension about how much art can I do, how much of my time could I devote to art. And, you know, it goes up and down. And I did some calculating. It was about 40 years ago that I got my Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in California. And I think that was a really good time in my life where I was attending classes and really learning a lot and just deeply embedded in art. And I've always tried to go back to that time, and I think I'm getting back into it in a very serious way now. And I appreciate the opportunity to share some of the work that I've done. Back then, I was doing some sculpture. I was actually doing bronze sculpture, which was really intense and doing a lot of work, but getting back into some 3D work. This one that you see on the screen here, I call these shadow box sculptures. And I like to take things that I have and look at it and say, what can I do with this? And so these sculptures were made from the tops of wood from a fence that we had built in our yard. And instead of tossing them out, I looked at it and said, what is it that I could do with this? In a scientific term, it's actually called exaptation, a radical repurposing of one thing to be used for something else. So I've had really a lot of fun making these. A lot of these, this one here is a woodpecker. And it was a lot of fun sort of experimenting with a combination of carving into the wood, but also giving it some color and some paint. And I have a couple of those at the show. I think there's another one here. Yeah, so a lot of birds, a lot of frogs. We really enjoy frogs, our family. And so this is a red-eyed tree frog. And so again, I just call these shadow box sculptures. Some of them I've actually poured clear epoxy resin over them, or different color resin, and had an additional effect and filled that vacant space with resin. I didn't have any of those left for the show in Faribault, but I'm going to continue to make some more of those because I think it's an interesting way to add to that medium as well. So owls, I did an exhibit at the Northfield Arts Center a couple months ago. It was called "The Owls Are Not What They Seem." And I really got into carving wood more seriously, and specifically owls. We had a tree in our yard that was an elm tree, and it had died. And we had the top of it cut off, and we wanted the bottom to be able to be habited by any birds or animals that wanted to live in it. And with a lot of the wood that was cut down, I looked at it and said, what is it that I could do with this? And I've always really enjoyed owls as a mysterious sort of a creature. And so this is a barred owl. And we enjoy having him sitting around our house. He has kind of a special place. But he's getting a good view of Faribault today. So he's got that look about him that you know, he like owls do. They've got that sense of watching and looking and seeing what's going on. So he's one of my favorite ones. Him and barn owls. And one of the paintings, actually a couple of the paintings that I have at the exhibit are from a visit that we did to Italy a couple of years ago. It was before the pandemic. And this particular one was from a couple days that we stayed on the west coast of Italy, below Naples. And it was a really interesting part of our visit. And a lot of the views that I had captured either on photographs or paintings were looking out into the Mediterranean Sea. And this one at nighttime was actually looking back at the village. And I just really liked the way that the reflections from the lights were working that way, and the boat was actually there. I have a tendency to sort of draw or paint whatever I see, and perhaps include a bit more than what's needed, but I was really trying to capture the essence of the feeling of what was going on at the sunset. It was really around sunset time of that particular day in Italy. And it's one of several that I've done of the Italy visit. I think there's some others from the northern part of Italy that are also available on exhibit at the show. So I asked Julie to include this in the sharing time this evening because, as with most artists, I guess you're trying to make a space or create some time and actually have a studio. And I've always struggled with having adequate space, adequate light, adequate storage space to create a studio of my own. So in the property that we have, there's a downward slope that goes down into some woods. And the image in the middle is a little drawing that I did of the idea that I was trying to create my own art studio outside of the house so it wouldn't have the mess and the smells of everything that was going on. And that was the original idea. And then up in the upper left-hand corner, you can kind of see the current carving place that I have looking out in the space that I selected for making the studio. And so I started in the middle of December, and then going down, you can sort of see how I marked out the land and then started making the foundation in the bottom. And then you go along the bottom, you can see how I put some insulation along the floor and then getting that built up. And I've made a lot more progress on it as you loop around going counterclockwise. Today, I'm excited that I actually got the studio electrified so I don't have to tote around extension cords and trying to plug and replug in the different tools that I need to actually build the studio. So stay tuned for progress on the building of the studio. It's a project in and of itself. It's a bit of art in itself. I have a lot of ideas about how I'm going to incorporate art into the actual structure, not just create art when I'm there, but actually make it more of a work of art as a studio. So thanks for letting me share that part of the show. It's not at the show, but it's going to allow me to make more art in the future. I think that's it for my slides.
Well, thank you, Mike. And yeah, keep us updated on the studio. I'd love to see finished photos.
Yeah, it's on, mostly I share things on Instagram. So if you
Okay.
follow what's going on there, you can see pretty much daily progress reports. And starting in the middle of December in Minnesota is an interesting time to try to build something outdoors. And I just got it started before the ground was too hard to do anything on it. So
you can't wait for spring, I bet.
yeah, boy, next week's going to be really great.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mike. And I did take some of the photos of Mike's work, and I'm not the best photographer, so please come and see his work in person. And how big are those small pieces, like the woodpecker and the frog? They're not that large, are they?
They're about 4 inches square.
Yeah.
It's like a fence post, what you would get with a fence post.
And they're very affordable. So stop down and purchase some work. And again, these shows will be up through March 19th. Thank you, Mike.
You bet.
So next we have Summer Hazelton. She is in our Corey Lynn Krieger Memorial Gallery. The Corey Lynn Krieger Memorial Gallery is for 18 and under. So it's always student artists. And it's always amazing to me to see what the students are doing. Summer is a junior in high school at the Bethlehem Academy, our Catholic school in Faribault. And this is probably the biggest wall that we're looking at right now in the gallery. And she's got quite the variety of mediums. She's painting on skateboards. She's painting on a podium. She has some watercolors. There's a, looks like some Disney characters. And I'm excited about her work. I also paint animals, and most of Summer's work has cats involved. This, I believe, is a self-portrait with a cat, but the titles of hers are very unique. So, you know, again, stop down and see the work. Here's one of the skateboards that she painted on.
Wow.
It's just amazing work, just fun, playful, colorful. And again, I'm a cat person, and I exclusively paint animals and carve animals in clay. So again, very excited about her work. This is her childhood best friend. We have another, this is Bruno Beans. This is done with plant-based inks.
Wow.
And I actually wanted to ask Summer about this piece because it's so different than the other pieces. This one is called Family, acrylic on canvas. And Jason Hillesheim is her instructor at Bethlehem Academy. And Jason is very inspirational. I'm sad to say Summer and Jason couldn't be with us today. But if you have any questions, please email us or give us a call, and we can contact the artist and get you answers, or, you know, see what the answer, or see what the artists say about their work. If you have any specific questions, like I have questions about this piece, since it's so different than her other work. And again, the artwork will be up through March 19th. And upstairs on our second floor, once a year, we have our student exhibit. And we invite all the area schools to participate in this student exhibit. They can do a maximum of 50 pieces per school and only one per artist. And I believe we're looking at Lincoln right now. So the Lincoln instructor, she's brand new to Lincoln Elementary School. And so we're very happy to have their work here. And you can see there's quite the variety.
Wow.
This is a piece by Sophie. And Sophie was able to come to the opening reception for the student show. And I was asking her what the ice cream is made out of. She said it was a home material, something you would use in homes. So I'm not sure if that's plaster, but very interesting. This one is from Jefferson. Nova is in kindergarten. So it's very happy to see that fat, happy cardinal and the berries behind it. Then we also have Roosevelt. And again, I'm a huge cat person. So excited to see the second graders doing all these great cat pieces. And we also have the Faribault Area Learning Center. I believe they are primarily high school students. This is another Sophie, and this is 12th grade. It looks like we're doing a variation, the same kind of landscape. Their instructor is Jackie Jarvis. Jackie has been there for quite a while, and we are so happy to have their work here at the Paradise. Again, in the student show, we have Lincoln Elementary, Jefferson Elementary, Roosevelt Elementary, and the Faribault Area Learning Center. I'm excited to have their work. It's on the second floor. Their work will be up through, I believe, April 9th. And as always, we'd like to thank the Minnesota State Arts Board. These activities are made possible by the voters of Minnesota through a grant from the Minnesota State Arts Board, thanks to a legislative appropriation from the Arts and Cultural Fund. Without our grants, we would not, it would not be possible to be here. And of course, without the artists, it would not be possible to be here. And at this time, I'd like to open it up to question and answers. If you'd like to unmute yourself, you can give us any questions. If you don't feel like asking questions now, again, you can email us. My email is the one on the slide here and all over the website and the information. I'm at info@paradisecenterforthearts.org. Again, you can give us a call, 507-332-7372, and our website, paradisecenterforthearts.org. Does anybody have any questions for the artists?
I do. I have a question.
Yes.
My question's for Mike. I don't know if it's exactly, well, that's a question and a comment. Mike, I saw your exhibit, and I want to tell you, I really like your owl pieces. What I like about them is they're very expressive, and I feel that I like the way you handle the materials. And I like in this one, I like the connection between the base, the wooden base and the owl. And when I look at them, I can just tell that you have this connection to them, but that's how it seems to me. So my question is, what is your connection to the owls, and why did you choose the owls, and what do they mean to you?
Yeah, it's interesting. Currently, you know, when you go outside at night, you can actually hear the owls outside. And growing up, you know, I grew up in Kansas, and we did have some owls. Then we moved to Wisconsin, and you could get access to more owls. Before the webinar started, Julie and I were talking about in Houston, Minnesota, there's the International Owl Center, and it's a great place to go visit. And at least once a year, they share art of students from around the world with their depiction of owls, mostly two-dimensional. So I've always been intrigued with owls, and I tried to capture that when I did the featured exhibit at Northfield Arts Guild called "The Owls Are Not What They Seem." I have owls all over our yard. I've carved them and put them up in trees. On the top of the elm tree that was cut down, I installed a barn owl that's swooping in like it's gonna fly over our house. It's a huge barn owl. And I just like the character of them. I like the mystery of them. I like the, the fact that they're awake when we're not, and they're doing things, and, they have an interesting history and spirituality and in history. So I just try to capture that in the work that I do. And I appreciate your comments on this one. Discovering that connection between the creature and the wood that he's perched on. What do you cut off? What do you keep? What do you try to have show up? Not everything works, especially
Right.
with wood. It can be unforgiving. You can add something back, but it's best if you can carve it in one setting, and then it's when it's done.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
what I can say about that.
Yeah. I also liked your comment that you talked about that tree in your yard, the elm tree.
Mhm.
And it was an elm, right? You cut the
Right.
top off
Yeah.
and you left the rest of the tree there for the other animals so they could still live and use it as a home or a home base. And I really like that as well.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
And the owl on the upper left of the slide, is that like a snow owl, or what are they?
That's a snowy
Snowy?
owl. Yeah. I've had quite a few people interested
It's beautiful.
in that one, and how I did that and what I was trying to capture with it. I made a larger version of that I no longer have. Somebody purchased it, but they're interesting birds. They really are, the snowy owls.
So Mike, have you been up to Saxon Bog?
Mm-hmm.
I spent 2 weeks there in January. Well, I go every year, but the 2 coldest weeks in January, I was up there and out. It was like -30 most of those days,
Yeah.
but I saw tons of owls, tons of snowy owls, tons of great grays.
Yeah.
The eagle, not the eagle owl, the hawk owl.
Yeah. I got an eagle hawk that's on that's in the exhibit.
I feel like I'm in the right webinar tonight because I have 2 things that I'm really obsessive about. And that's, I'm a big birder and I love a lot of birds, but I'm an owl fanatic.
Mhm.
And I wish I could drag my computer around here because I think I have about 100 owls in this room that I'm sitting in right now. I'm just
Mhm.
going to show you my absolute
I wanna see.
favorite owl.
Oh,
This is
yes.
a 6x8 painting done by a friend of mine. I've known him since 1970, and it's based on a Buddhist, not a Buddhist, a Tibetan mandala.
Mhm.
It's called Sri Yantra. I wish I could, how can I turn some more lights on over here so that you can see? Does this help at all? I don't know. Can you see it at all?
Right
We
there.
see it.
That's it. That's
Yeah,
it
we
right
see
there.
it. We
Yeah,
see it.
But
Yeah.
I love owls, and my big volunteer project is prairie restoration down in the Driftless area. So it's funny. I love the art that I've seen tonight. It's been really wonderful.
You're in the right place, Barbara.
And Barbara, can we ask where are you then?
Well, I live downtown Minneapolis,
Okay.
and I moved here because I had a cancer diagnosis. Now it's about 10 years. I've been off all treatment for about 3 years, I think, and I'm doing really well. So
Congratulations.
Yeah.
yeah, but
Congratulations.
anyway, I sort of, I lived in San Francisco, I should tell you, for 35 years. And I was intrigued by the fact, I think it was you, Mike, who said you got your fine arts degree
Right.
in California. Where in California?
Well, it used to be called Cal State Hayward, but now it's called Cal State East.
That is hysterical.
Yeah.
Well, so I was at UCSF for like 20
okay.
years, and then I was with East Bay Nephrology
Okay.
in the East Bay, and we covered 14 hospitals there.
Mhm.
I never slept for like 7 years, and And then I had ill family members back here, which was the real reason I moved back to Minnesota very happily, I should say. I feel like the Bay Area just sort of got out of control. But yeah, it was a great place to spend some time.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So,
Well, Barbara, if you come over to the Paradise Center for the Arts, you'll be able to see all these other pieces in person too.
yes.
You know, all of it. There's a lot to look at, and
Yeah.
it's a wonderful place. They offer a lot of classes, and they have a clay studio upstairs that's very popular, and
Wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah, we'd be happy to give you the full tour.
And
Yeah.
you have, the reason I'm so interested in coming down there is because I can't remember which woman it was that was talking about biking or the Wobegon bike trail. I'm a big biker, so I come down to Faribault. If your bike trail is in
Yep.
good shape, for a number of years, it was horrendous. But I bike from Faribault over to Mankato, and then the Minneopa
Mhm.
Trail and the Red Jacket Trail or whatever. I love that. I love the wild areas down around Faribault.
Barbara, have you been to Houston, Minnesota?
I've been a member of the Owl Center since she had it in her house.
Have you been down there to see it?
Oh, I've been a member. My kids,
Okay,
I drag
okay.
my daughters down there. Yeah, Carla, I talk to Carla all the time, and I bike the river.
I was
quite a
going to ask because the
Yeah.
Root River Trail will go from Houston to Harmony.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it does in a big loop. I've done that many times.
Okay.
When I turned 70, I upgraded I have 5 bikes, but I got a new mountain bike now. I figured at age 70, I wanted to make a statement. And now I do quite a lot of bike packing with it. It's set up so that and I'm sort of gearing up to do longer treks. I'd like to do some of the adventurous cycling trips that they have. Yeah.
Well, on your way down to Faribault, stop in Lakeville. That's where I live, and I can give you a tour of all the owls that are in our yard and in our house.
Wow. I would be tempted. I go up and down the river. So I usually walk about 10 to 15 miles and go down towards, I live in downtown now. But I'm half a block from the river, and I'm like about a little over a mile from Mary Welke's fabulous studio in Northrop King. And that's one of my favorite galleries. So I like where I am, and I like not having to take care of a huge place. But yeah, I'm up and down the river, and the river flats, especially on the east side of the river, I usually find owls over there.
Yep.
Or at Murphy, or at Afton, or Carver. Or there's owls to be seen.
There are.
Wow. Thank you, Barbara.
Yeah, well, thank you. This has been very enjoyable.
Good. Anybody else have any questions?
I'm curious about something. So first of all, you're all so talented. I'm supremely jealous. I'm curious about if there's a particular medium that you like to work with. I tried art years and years and years ago, back in junior high and high school, because I just was following in Mike's footsteps, but for me, it didn't take. And I remember liking to work in oil because it was forgiving. And I remember Mike doing so many watercolors, and I could never figure it out how he was so good at it, because I couldn't work fast enough. And so I never liked watercolor. I was just curious, because you're all using such different media. What is there a particular medium that you're drawn to, and why?
Mary, what about you?
Well, I paint. I do paint, and I paint using acrylic. I have used oil in the past. And I switched to acrylic because I like the fact that I could work faster. And there's many mediums you can add to acrylic paint to slow it down if you want to slow it down. And there's mediums to do all kinds of things, to create textures and whatever you want to do. So it's very forgiving, and I like texture a lot, and I like texture in my paintings. And I've never done sculpture, traditional sculpture, because it's every time I would start working on one side, then I would have to change the other side. You know, and it never ended. It kept going on and on and on. But what I discovered is that I like texture and I like feeling materials. I like working with my hands a lot. And when I started working on this project, the Prairie Project, I wanted to use materials, organic materials and things from the farm and the field. And what I discovered is it's like my painting. It's very textural. And I discovered a whole new world for myself. I started playing around with these materials, and I found that there wasn't any path I had to follow. I could do it my own way and explore and experiment. And I'm very curious. I like to experiment. And the other thing is that I did a series of small collages using burlap and linen and some other materials, fabric-like materials. And when I worked with those materials, that's also what I use for some of the materials in my exhibit here at the Paradise Center for the Arts. And so now I'm going back to my paintings, and I've noticed that in my paintings, I'm starting to add organic material. I do a lot of birch paintings too. And now I've been adding birch leaves into the paintings. So there's starting to be a crossover between what I'm doing in this project and my other body of work. Mm-hmm. So, I think if you have to allow yourself to explore and try all different things and do, even if it's not an art material, use whatever feels right to you. I mean, you don't have to have the traditional materials. I
think I saw the burlap in your first pieces.
Yeah.
I really like that. That was appealing.
Thanks. Yeah. And who would have ever thought it? I bought the piece of the burlap. I got at like a junk yard or something. It was on the ground. It wasn't even for sale. But you just never know. And I think a lot of artists are kind of like to look at junk and go to thrift stores and look around at stuff that like used things, and they all come into your artwork and to help you express yourself. So it can be anything. Don't be limited by your materials is what I'm telling you. And I still, what material do I like? I know texture, and I know I'm exploring and learning new things and trying new things. And that's always an exciting place to be.
Kate, what about you?
Yeah, Paul, I'm actually right with you on the oil versus watercolor debate. I barely, I barely got a good grade in my watercolor classes in college because I just felt like I couldn't control it, and my teacher actually said, you need a looser technique, and you just have to trust the watercolors kind of that they, figure out how they flow across the page, and never quite got it, but oil paints. Yeah, if you can work with oil paints, there's much more control that you can have. So I definitely love them. Like, that's what I use for portrait commissions all the time, working on an oil painting right now, and it's nice to be able to work slowly and get it just right. So and oil paints actually, and a lot of people are really intimidated by starting with oil paints, but actually, like, you don't really need like all the turpentine and stuff like that some oil painters use. I actually just use linseed oil to sort of water down the paints. You can't use water, obviously, so I use linseed oil, which is also in the oil paint itself. So and then cleaning out the brushes with just a good good brush soap, and using the oil to wet your brushes per se before you start painting, so it's easier to clean out. So so yeah, if you just get a small kit of, you know, oil paints, like little tubes of each color, and a little bit of linseed oil, you can, and a canvas, like you can kind of experiment with it and see what you can do. I definitely encourage anyone who's interested in it to try a medium that they think would like, and just buy a little bit at a time. So yeah.
Mike, what about you? Because you work in so many different mediums.
Yeah. The thing with watercolor is I enjoy it. I didn't always enjoy it as much as I do now, but the thing with watercolor is it's kind of like you're doing a dance between the paper and the water and the pigment, and you get your brushes there. And a teacher of mine years ago said, you got to be prepared to make a lot of cheeseburgers. And I said, what? I said, yeah, you know, you're going to have a lot of failures. The cost of the paper, the paint, and your time roughly adds up to about the cost of a cheeseburger. So get used to making a lot of cheeseburgers. But eventually something's going to click, and you know when to stop, and you say, yeah, that's it right there. But the same effect can occur with other media. But you know, with watercolor, you just got to be prepared to say, and then be thankful for the mistakes that do occur. Don't try to overwork them, because, you know, thank God that those mistakes made it unique in the way that it was. But be prepared to make a lot of cheeseburgers in your efforts.
Any other questions for the artists? Anybody? Well, again, if you think of something later, let us know.
I have something I'd like to say, please. Kate, I wanted to say that I'm looking forward to seeing your project, your portrait project, that the one that you're just starting with, that you have a grant to work on the portraits of the immigrants and their stories.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll have to come back down to Faribault for the show.
Yeah.
Do you know what the dates are for your show, Kate?
Oh, you know what? I have it. I can probably just find it here in a quick minute. The summer of 2023. So
It's in 2023.
yeah, because it'll take me a while to draw all of the portraits, and
Sure. Yeah.
So it is. It's at the community center. They have like a hallway kind of between the community center and the library that's like an exhibition space. Okay, so tentatively with the city, they've decided on Monday, July 17th through Friday, September 15th, 2023. And we're thinking that the show opening will be Saturday, July 22nd in 2023. So those are the tentative dates. You know, if anything changes with the city with their schedule, then we might have to move things around a little bit, but you can probably look on the Parks and Rec website, or and feel free to contact me too if it's getting closer to the show, and I'll have it up on my website too once it gets closer to.
And what's your website, Kate? What's
the name? So it's Langlais.com. So KATELANGLAIS.com.
And I'm sure that Paradise will hopefully be sharing that information too next year.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And again, Kate has virtual classes and is scheduled, so get signed up for those.
Yeah, I'll update my website with those too to make sure that I have them all in one place.
Well, thank you, everybody. Again, we're recording this. We will put this on the Paradise Center for the Arts website, Facebook, and YouTube page. So anybody who couldn't join us will be able to see it at a later date.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Oh,
you all
thank
for
you.
sharing.
Much.
It's fun.
Thank you.
And again, if you can't make it during our open hours, which are Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, noon to 5, Saturday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Just call us 507-332-7372, and we can make an appointment to get you in to see the artwork. And again, all this artwork will be up through March 19th. The student exhibit, I believe, will be up through April 9th. If any questions, please email or call us or leave us a message on Facebook, and we will contact the artists if we don't have the answer and get back to you. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, Minnesota State Arts Board.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Night.
Bye.
Good night. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks.